The Roman army was one of the most powerful military forces of the ancient world. Its organization, weapons, and armor were considered among the most advanced of their time. Units, legionary, the core heavy infantry of the Roman army, forming the backbone of the legions. Equipped with standard infantry gear and fighting in dense formations, they were known for strict discipline, training, and the ability to sustain prolonged combat in organized ranks. Auxiliary troops, recruited from the provincial populations of the empire, used to support the legions and perform specialized roles. Often equipped and trained differently, they added flexibility and mobility to Roman forces. Alae, purely cavalry auxiliary units, used for rapid maneuvering, reconnaissance, and strikes against vulnerable enemy positions, provided the Roman army with mobility that heavy legionary infantry lacked. Praetorian Guard, elite troops responsible for guarding the emperor and the capital. Although not primarily field units, they possessed high-quality equipment and training. In certain campaigns, they were deployed as a powerful shock force. Sagittarii, units of archers, most often recruited from the eastern provinces, used for long-range fire support and to assist infantry formations. They compensated for the lack of native missile troops within standard legions. Velites, light infantry of the early Republican period, armed with javelins, used to screen formations and harass the enemy. Over time, they were replaced by more structured auxiliary units. Centurion, the command-level officer leading a century, responsible for discipline, formation control, and battlefield leadership. Distinguished by superior equipment and armor, and visually identifiable within the ranks to maintain control of the unit.
Close combat melee weapons.
Gladius hispaniensis, an early type of gladius adopted by the Romans from Iberian tribes. A short, heavy, and well-balanced sword, designed primarily for thrusting attacks. Used by Republican-era legionaries, and especially effective in dense formations fighting from behind the shield. Gladius Mainz, a transitional form of the gladius used during the early imperial period. Featured a broader blade and a pronounced point, allowing both thrusting and cutting strikes. Considered a versatile weapon for various types of close combat. Pugio, a short dagger carried by legionaries as a secondary weapon, used in confined fighting when the sword was lost, or in situations where a longer blade was impractical. Remained a reliable backup weapon at very close range. Spatha, a long sword originally intended for Roman cavalry. In the later period, it was also adopted by infantry due to changes in tactics and increased combat distance. Allowed engagement at greater reach, but required more space and a different fighting style. This concludes the section on close combat melee weapons. Next, we move on to the throwing weapons of Roman infantry. Throwing and auxiliary infantry weapons. Pilum, a heavy javelin specifically designed for the initial contact before close combat. Its thin iron shank bent on impact, piercing enemy shields and rendering them unusable. Used to disrupt enemy formations before infantry engagement. Hasta, a thrusting spear used by early Roman infantry units and auxiliary forces, designed for medium-range combat, allowing soldiers to keep opponents at a distance. In later periods, it remained in limited use and in ceremonial roles. Verutum, a light javelin widely used by auxiliary infantry. Lighter and capable of longer throws than the pilum, it was employed for harassing fire and wearing down the enemy before the main clash. Dolabra, an entrenching tool combining the functions of a pickaxe and an axe, used for building camps, digging, and fortifications, but could also serve as a weapon in close combat. Particularly effective in confined spaces where standard infantry weapons were impractical. Next, we move on to defensive equipment. Shields. Scutum, the large curved shield of the Roman legionary that formed the foundation of infantry tactics. provided protection from shoulders to knees, and allowed soldiers to fight in tight formations. Used not only defensively, but also as an active tool for pushing and disrupting the enemy. Parma, a small round shield used by auxiliary units and certain infantry formations. Lighter and more maneuverable, it allowed faster movement and more flexible combat at the cost of reduced coverage. Cetra, a round shield of Iberian origin used by auxiliary infantry known as cetrati. Lighter and more compact than the scutum, it was suited for rapid attacks, reconnaissance, and fighting in rough terrain where a heavy shield was impractical. Helmets. Montefortino, an early helmet type widely used during the Republican period. It featured a conical shape with a small top knob and simple cheek guards. Lightweight and easy to produce, it was mass-issued to early Roman legions. Culus, a bronze helmet of Gallic origin, adopted by the Roman army in the late Republican period. Its rounded shape provided improved fit and comfort, offered reliable head protection while remaining light, making it well-suited for long marches. Imperial Gallic, an Imperial-era helmet with enhanced neck protection and reinforced cheek pieces, often featured strengthening ridges and decorative elements. Considered one of the most advanced Roman helmet designs, offering high protection in formation combat. Imperial Italic, an imperial helmet variant produced in Italy. Structurally similar to Gallic types, but differing in details of shape and craftsmanship. Used alongside other helmet types depending on workshops and period. Centurion helmet, a command variant of the standard Roman helmet, distinguished by a transverse or longitudinal crest. Used by centurions to visually mark their leadership role on the battlefield and within formations, while retaining full protective functionality. Ridge helmet, a late Roman helmet type composed of multiple metal segments joined by a central ridge. Provided reinforced protection and was easier to repair and manufacture. Widely used in the later empire as tactics and supply systems evolved.
Siege weapons.
Ballista, a heavy Roman artillery engine that used twisted sinew bundles to launch bolts or stones. Employed to suppress defenders on walls and towers. Known for its high accuracy and long range, allowing precise fire against specific targets and disrupting the organization of a city's defense. Scorpio, a compact variant of the ballista designed for precision strikes, used against commanders, signalers, and archers on the walls. Its main advantages were mobility and rapid reloading, enabling sustained and accurate fire during prolonged sieges. Onager, a single-arm stone-throwing machine named after the violent recoil it produced when firing. Used to damage sections of walls and towers. While not highly accurate, it delivered powerful impacts capable of cracking and collapsing stone masonry. Testudo Aritaria, a covered battering ram designed to breach city gates. The structure protected the crew from arrows and fire, allowing them to operate directly against fortifications. Used in prolonged sieges where systematic destruction of entrances was required. Vinia, a mobile assault shelter used to protect soldiers and engineers during tunneling operations and the deployment of battering rams. Its primary function was to allow safe movement toward walls under enemy fire, enabled engineering work without a direct assault. Helepolis, a massive, multi-tiered siege tower used to attack high walls. Housed archers and artillery within its structure. Its main advantage was height dominance and the psychological pressure it exerted on defenders even before the assault began. Equipment. Tunica, the basic garment of the Roman soldier, worn under armor and during daily service. Made from wool or linen, it provided comfort on long marches and protected the skin from chafing caused by armor. Color and length varied by period and unit. Thoracomachus, a padded under-armor garment, worn beneath metal armor. It absorbed impact, reduced injury, and distributed the weight of the armor across the body. Used with both mail and plate-style armor. Lorica squamata. A scale armor composed of small metal plates sewn onto a backing. Offered good protection while retaining flexibility. Used by both infantry and auxiliary units, particularly in garrison and frontier service. Braccae. Trousers adopted by the Romans from northern and eastern peoples. Initially not considered traditional Roman attire, they became widespread in colder regions of the empire. Improved protection and comfort during prolonged service outside Italy. Ocrii. Greaves used to protect the lower legs. More commonly worn by centurions and selected soldiers rather than the entire infantry. Provided protection against cutting blows and debris without significantly restricting movement. Caligae. Military boots worn by Roman soldiers, featuring thick soles reinforced with metal hobnails. Provided reliable traction and durability on long marches. Standard footwear of the legionary, and a symbol of military service.